Hello, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
Hello.
Hey guys,
Hello, everyone.
Hey, John.
Hey, what's up, Taff?
is everyone here?
Except Langan is a cartoon. Oh,
There he is.
What's
Yeah.
up, John?
What a rude thing
Listen.
to say to John.
I know. Another thing, Taff. I want the red M&Ms. Okay, if that prima donna Malerman can show up and get whatever he wants, okay, I want the red M&Ms. Okay?
We've had this. We've had this
Oh.
discussion before, John.
Hey.
You can't have the red. The greens. The greens.
Hey, Josh. Hey, good to see you, buddy. How you doing? Yeah.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Did I say preening prima donna?
Now, is that
Yeah.
I totally meant it. I totally meant
Oh,
it.
oh, you have no idea how on the nail you were.
is that a reference to like one of those contract things where in a clause you're trying to see if the publisher's paying attention? So you add something weird like just red M&Ms.
Just red M&Ms, exactly. Yeah, that's it. And I'm still waiting on my goddamn red M&Ms.
John, I thought you were a nice guy. You hard.
Oh my God! Which John? I mean, take your pick.
you have
know?
got to know. You've got to know, Mr. Langan, that those red M&Ms now are on their way.
Yeah. My ass, they're on their way. Yeah,
Oh, it's on. It's on like Donkey Kong.
on my ass.
They'll be so melted when they get there.
Wait,
Numerous levels and
I'm sorry. I've taken this podcast right to PG-13. I'm really sorry
Already.
about that.
Already.
We may go right over into hard R. I don't know.
Oh, no.
We'll see what happens.
And here we go. I'm starting off with a drink.
So is-
Okay.
To all of
So
you.
hi. Cheers.
I have coffee.
I would
So, John,
toast you with water, but that's bad luck.
Only
It means
I
that
can lift
you'll,
Thor's hammer.
Yeah, nice. If you
Wow.
toast
Oh.
someone with water, it means they're going to die a watery death. So I'm not going to do that.
That's horrible, and especially since I'm,
Wait, is that true?
I'm completely inland.
Yeah, I don't make the rules, man.
Oh, we've been talking for 4 minutes, and Langan just said the scariest thing I've ever heard. If you cheer
That's,
someone with water, you send them to a watery death. Fuck, dude.
or you die the watery death. I'm not 100% sure about that, so I also don't want to die a watery death. So,
Now I
because
feel responsible for what happened to my Uncle Bill. I totally.
It was, and you thought you could novelize it in that house under the lake thing and get away with it. Make a cheap buck off.
We're on to you.
I cheered him with water and he drowned in the rain.
Yeah,
We are on to you now, Josh.
imagine if every single book is really just Josh's telling of a murder that he committed in the past on tour while recording with his band.
Well, I will say that Laird Barron has floated the theory to me that Stephen Graham Jones is actually a serial killer. And
Makes
all
sense.
these serial killer books that he's writing, they're just confessions. And he's just fooling us. He's just like, this is me. And we're all like, oh, Stephen, you're so meta. And then when we wind up, covered in saran wrap while he's holding the knife, we're going to be like, wow, excellent cosplay, dude. And it's all good.
There's got to be, if it's not him, somebody's got to be doing it out there.
And we're like on the witness stand. This is unbelievable.
It should be a book.
This episode's about to turn into a game of Clue real quick.
Brennan, start off with that question, by the way. That was a really good one. We talked about.
Wow.
Yeah, let's hope I can remember it.
That question, man.
No
No
pressure.
pressure. Here we go.
All right,
Welcome.
this better be a good one.
Hey, let's go, motherfuckers. Welcome to Dead Headspace. I'm your host, Patrick R. McDonough, joined always by my co-host, Brennan LaFaro. Say hi, Brennan.
Hello, everybody.
Today, we're joined by three incredible gentlemen who are also incredible writers. Let's start with John Langan. Say hi, John.
Hi, John.
And let's say hello to John FD Taff. Say hi, Taff.
Hello, motherfuckers.
And of course, let's say hi to Josh Malerman. Say hi, Josh.
Hello, everybody.
So polite. So
Wait,
polite.
hold on. He's the most sedate one. That's not right.
I really, that was
It's a
hard.
ruse.
I've never
It's a
done
ruse.
something like that before. I've never spoken like that in my life. That was
I
weird.
had a Vincent Price kind
I'm
of
gonna
vibe.
try one. I'm gonna try to thank you for having me.
He needs that mustache.
Yeah.
Brennan, jump in, sir.
I'm just waiting for Josh to start yelling.
What?
Right.
It's coming. Don't worry. It's totally coming.
That's what she said. Go ahead, Brennan.
Whoa.
Oh, wow. What is that? 5
PG-13,
minutes?
Patrick. PG-13. All right. So as Patrick mentioned, you guys have all been on before. You know that typically we start out with what got you into horror, but you have all answered that already. Actually, in honor of having you back, Patrick, do you want to sing a verse of the Welcome Back, Cotter theme song? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna be very
we don't want to hear
insulting
you
to
sing.
any listener and singer, so no.
All right, now we're here to talk Dark Stars, which is such an awesome anthology. John, don't pretend you don't know. And
No,
like,
I was gonna
fucking cool cover.
I was gonna do the same thing. We're all like, there
Oh,
we go.
damn, I
Look
got
at
the
that.
A copy. You sons of bitches.
And
Yeah.
Ooh, nice. Man.
Excellent.
That is a shiny
I'll
cover.
second that with the.
I like that one.
All right, that's
this book was hard to find.
I like Brennan's cover, man. Did you see that? That was like gold.
Hold on, I gotta grab something to show you guys.
Yeah,
Okay, he's gonna.
Oh, here
Josh
we
is
go,
going
man.
in secret
Yeah.
stash.
Right.
Yeah, the one that I've got was hard to find, and it was $60, and that's a book club edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a nice looking version. This was $4.99.
Should have gone that way.
I'm pretty sure that edition, Brennan, was re-released
Yeah.
when Primeval came out, and the paperback of Primeval, because the cover designs are very, very similar, and they were sort of piggybacking off, like, because Primeval was like, oh, we're trying to pay homage to Dark Forces, and so I think they were looking to bring that back and make a little money.
Hey, what if
It
Stephen
looks
Graham Jones
like this
appeared-
version is 89,
Mm-hmm.
unless I'm missing something.
What if now Stephen Graham Jones's face just appeared where Josh is sitting?
That would be fantastic. If
That would be fantastic.
Josh just peels off his face and it's Steven, and we're all like, oh my God.
The whole time.
Anyway, I have this pretty badass paperback. Where are you? I don't know. I'll have to send you guys photos.
If one person could write as much as Josh and Stephen, I would say that they're an alien. So behind that mask is an alien.
Or then Steven pulls off his mask and it's Josh all over again.
Right.
Yeah.
Nesting dolls. Ooh, I like
Nesting
it.
dolls, right. It's Malerman and Jones all the way down.
All right. So if I actually forgot the question before, now it's really gone. Oh, you know what? I want to start with Josh's intro here. And I thought it was such a great line to kick the intro off. Horror is having a moment. So I want to talk about, this anthology is a tribute to Dark Forces, the 1980, formative anthology that, hit so many young readers. And I want to talk about why now is the perfect moment for this book to come out, because it really is. So, Josh, I want to hear your opinion on it.
Well, some people would argue that the genre is always having a moment, and I would agree, and I agree with that. I feel like, if one of us were immortal and had actually been writing for the whole duration of horror fiction history, and we'd all be like, dude, it's always been happening. There's always amazing shit. There's always energy. There's always like a classic of each generation. I get that completely. But on that already sort of elevated terrain, there are still peak moments spiritually. Maybe it's in this case, I think it's sort of like, it seems like rather than one figurehead like Stephen King sort of driving, bulldozing through to the mainstream, it feels like there's a pool of like 60 or 70 of us that are all writing like regularly, putting out good books and good stories. And I wouldn't say trying to outdo each other, but that sense of everyone's feeling that same, like, okay, I got to do it because they're doing it and I got to do it. And that sense of we're all working at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And you can feel it. It's palatable. You can feel it when you sit down. That you're not just like, I'm gonna just knock this one out of the park because I'm the only one in the field. It's like, no, it's like, holy shit. All right, let's things are a little peaked and elevated in a great way. And you're reading each other's books and you're inspired by each other's books. And you're excited as hell to get yours out and to see your friend's cover and to show your cover. It feels like, I guess what I would hope is that somebody would eventually like name this era. And I've like spent, I feel like it's the kind of thing that has to happen accidentally. I don't think it's like, whoa, I've decided, guys, we're called the horror stars, you know? I think that it's like, you have to like, I think that someone else has to name like splatterpunk or whatever, this moment in time. And I realize splatterpunk is more of a subgenre, but you get what I'm saying. Like, this is a moment. And I feel like 30 years from now, I'm going to be like, yeah, I was part of the moment, you know? And when I think about like, it's easy, I think, to think like, because in 2014, Bird Box comes out. So it's really easy for me to think, oh, everything started when I showed up, or like, is that all you like knew or something? Or if somebody put out a book in 2000, like what was going on before me? And before 2014, I was really on the road constantly with the band and this kind of thing. And I'd never been to one convention. I didn't know another horror author. There were two friends of mine in, that I would meet up with on the road. One was in Arizona and the other one was in, Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And when the band came through those towns, I was all excited to see Jeremiah, who would tell me his ghost story idea. And I would tell him the book I was working on. And when we got to Arizona, Ben, I was so excited to see Ben at the bar to talk. Oh my God, there's someone I can talk horror with. Like I didn't have Facebook then. I didn't have Twitter then. I didn't have, you know what I mean? So for me to step into this whole scene and be like, holy shit, like all these fans and all these readers and all these writers. And then from 2014 to now, it feels like I've been like watching it just like every year is getting stronger and stronger and really has like peaked. I mean, hopefully it hasn't peaked at all, but has reached something in about 2019, 2020. I feel like it's like something happened there and it's been happening as far as I can see, since I've arrived, I've witnessed this elevation the whole time.
Yeah. I love the idea of just kind of that conglomeration, the fact that there isn't just one voice anymore. You're absolutely right. You know, beyond the fact that my local Barnes and Noble now has a horror section again, which is wonderful. The Stephen King section of it is the smallest I've ever seen it, or at least the most compact that I've ever seen it. And you know, I love King, but you know, when the horror section only gets its 3 bays, and you know, it used to be Stephen King taking up 50% of those 3 bays. It's kind of cool to see. Okay, he's still got his 2 shelves because he's got enough material to fill it. But all the other stuff is there too, and it's
no, that I hadn't even thought of it. I mean, that's literally physical proof of what we're talking about right now. It's just actual physical proof. Like this giant corporate bookstore is like, we need more room for horror. There's more than just this one dude.
Mm-hmm.
And like we all love Stephen King, but then there's also this excitement of like, you know, I remember I think it was like Ringo was saying that maybe like the Clash or something said they didn't like the Beatles or something, and Ringo's like, they're not supposed, they're like the next generation, they're supposed to say fuck you to us. And we're not saying fuck you to Stephen King, but we're excited to see, hey man, there's more room than just you and Dean and Anne, who I love.
I saw a Jeff Strand book randomly at Dollar General right down the road. This random suburban area in New South Jersey that most people probably haven't heard of. I've seen a bunch of, like Josh, obviously, I've seen your stuff. I've seen a lot of people that all of us know and talk to in various stores, be it used bookstores, big chain stores, farmers markets. It's so cool seeing that. I used to just hunt books down, but now I try to see who I know and be like, oh, I don't have that one. Here we go. That goes on the shelf. It's really cool time to be a reader because you can tell the writer, the creator, whatever, or other fans, I love this, I love that, and then it spirals into so much shit. It's phenomenal. And Josh, I hear you say elasticity a lot. That's a good example of it.
Yeah, for sure. And not to answer what might be numerous questions down the road, and not to take up all the oxygen in the beginning of this, but I don't think it's just, I think a major part of it is the diversity of voices, for sure. There's a million new types of voices and that kind of thing happening. But there is also the word you just used, just the elasticity of all this. Like a lot of us writers grew up in the 80s with the horror boom, this kind of thing. So for us to come, it just wouldn't, it would be almost strange if we all just repeated what we read, what we grew up on. So it's only natural that we're all stretching from there. And what's happening is when we're all stretching, like it's leaning, is this horror? Is it thriller? It's becoming a little harder to define. The genre is becoming wider. Who writes it and who we consider writes it becomes wider, and that kind of thing as well.
Just, I want to add one thing, and Amy, please jump in. It's like, a lot of parents will say, I want better for my child. I feel like as a horror genre, like when we talked to like Peter Straub, he used to talk to previous authors, and then other guys would talk to him, and then we're talking to those guys, and it spirals off, and it feels like we're all on the same team running a race, and we hand the baton, or whatever the hell that stick thing's called, and you hand it off, and you're like, here you go, do better. So Taff, now feels like a good time where you can jump in, man.
Oh.
I got you, dude. I'm sorry. I'm just it seemed like you were gonna jump in.
No, I think that's exactly, I agree with all of that. And I think that that's why, one of the reasons at least, why we thought that doing this right now would be a good idea, to go back and revisit what Dark Forces had done in the early 80s. Dark Forces hit me when I was about 17, and I had just moved on from science fiction and fantasy to horror, and I was reading King, I was reading Rice, I was reading Barker, I was reading Straub, and that particular book, Dark Forces, really hit me at the right time, and it was really kind of one of the things that the first things that I could remember reading that I thought, I'd kind of like to try my hand at this someday. So in the same sense that Dark Forces was a really kind of a pivotal book for the genre, it was personally, it was a pivotal book for me. So when, Josh and I were talking early on, and this goes back, I don't know, 4 years ago, Josh, 5 years ago, when we started talking about this thing, it just seemed like that was the right idea and the right time to do it. And everything just kind of clicked into place. It was remarkable how easy it was to get the authors we got, because as soon as we explained it to them, they were like, oh yeah, great, I'm in. Except for Langan, he argued.
Oh, a lot. I was like, where are my red M&Ms? And I'm still waiting. Waiting.
Oh, you'll get them.
Oh, they're coming. The red M&Ms are coming.
So,
but it just seemed like a good idea, and it seemed like when we brought the idea to the people that we were inviting, it really resonated with them. So there must have been something, out there that kind of agreed with us that it was the right time to do this and the right thing to do.
Obviously, this is just my opinion, but there has been times when I've read anthologies from bigger publishers, and it just felt like it should have been something, and it's my expectation. I'm sure you guys have experienced at some point, but I thought it would have been a little bit more enticing throughout the entire book. With Dark Stars, no bullshit, I loved it. I thought it was just a fucking great time from start, with Josh's opening to Ramsey Campbell's ending. Like Amakatsu, maybe it's just me, but I didn't expect that type of story from her, and I thought it was phenomenal. And then after I read it, I'm like, how couldn't I have? John Langan. I'm gonna say, if it's okay with you guys, I'll say Langan and Taff, just so there's no confusion.
That's fine.
How dare you? But all right.
As long as you're gonna call me Langan and him Taff.
That's just, yeah, okay, all right, I see where this is going, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Imagine if Langan took off his face mask and it's really Taff, and Taff is
Taff is Langan, Langan's Taff, and Josh is Stephen Graham Jones.
Yeah. So, and I'm Brennan. So Langan, yeah. So I was gonna say Brennan. So Langan, with your I'm confusing myself now. With your story, it kind of felt like it was, and you don't mention this in your author notes, but it felt like it was kind of an extension in the Fisherman's universe. Was there any thought to that connection? And whether there was or wasn't, can you kind of tell us about where you came up with your story without spoiling it?
No.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
Next question.
Do you remember when Johnny Carson used to do the Late Show? Every now and again, Charles Grodin would come on.
Yes.
And Charles Grodin, who was a very sweet, affable man, was just incredibly rude to Carson. And now I'm starting to understand, like the appeal of that, you know.
Oh, he's getting too fucking comfortable with me. Brennan.
But no. So what happened? So yeah. So I'm always amazed. I mean, and this sounds like false modesty. It's really not. I'm just always amazed when anybody, shoots me an email and it's like, "Hey, we're doing this thing. Do you want to be part of it?" I'm always like, "Me? Really? Great, sure." And I had a couple of. I knew. Okay, so the story is a Wendigo story. I think that's that's sort of out there. And what had happened was this guy had. I do this thing every now and again. Someone will say to me, "Hey, we're doing a fundraiser. Can you contribute something to it?" And a couple of times I've said, "Yeah, sure. Tell somebody that if they, you set the money amount, and if they reach this money amount, I'll write a monster story for them, monster of their choice." And so somebody gave me the Wendigo, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." Because the Wendigo, over maybe the last 30, 40 years, has sort of moved a little bit more into mainstream culture from primarily Northeastern, the literature what am I trying to say? The native cultures of the Northeastern sort of over to the Midwestern US. Out of that lore, it's moved. Actually, it was Marvel Comics. There was an issue of I think it was Wolverine's first appearance.
Yeah.
Where he and the Hulk joined to fight
Right.
this thing they call the Wendigo, and I just loved the monster design, and I was like, and then of course King does the Wendigo in Pet Sematary, sort of, and Algernon Blackwood does it sort of in his story, the Wendigo, and then of course in Hannibal you have the Wendigo. So there was this, I was like, okay, I've got stuff to work with in that regard, but I was really. I thought the interesting thing was, how do you become a Wendigo? Because if you go back to the stories of the various native peoples, it's somebody usually who becomes a cannibal. What's interesting about it is they become a cannibal when they're starving, which doesn't seem an unreasonable time to become a cannibal, right? If so, when Stephen Graham Jones shows up and does us all in, right? And he's putting us on the grill, that will be wrong. But when you're starving like that, but so I found that really kind of interesting anyway, that it's this, even when you're starving, you're supposed to maintain, there are certain rules you just don't break, and so yeah, and I said it in the Catskills because that's kind of what I know. There's a Philip Roth book, The Human Stain, and it has this ending scene on this frozen lake, and I always love that scene, and I was like, man. So he ends on that scene. I begin on that scene, and I knew, I kind of knew as I was moving through it that people would say, "Hey, this is in the Catskills, and you get these weird things going on, and is there a connection to the fishermen?" And my response is maybe, it's I'm like, yeah, it seems like it, doesn't it? But what the connection is, I'm not 100% sure. So if you've read The Fisherman and you want to read it and be like, "Oh, totally." No problem. But if you haven't, that's okay too. Or if you have and you're like, "Langan, you're out of your mind. This has nothing to do with The Fisherman." That's cool too. It's flexible enough.
John, the guy Neil from Talking Scared podcast, he called The Fisherman in this Catskill Gothic.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
He said Hudson Valley Gothic, but anyway, I think it was Catskills Gothic. Yeah, and it was when he said it just sort of in fluidly. He didn't highlight it, and I was like, "Ooh, that's fucking good." I got to tell John about that.
Yeah. No, he gives me my red M&Ms, but yeah, no, it's funny because Catskill Gothic, I agree that I was thinking about just a more general question, right? Horror is having its moment right now, right? And I think part of it does have to do with Stephen King and Peter Straub. And although, and this is kind of my sort of loose thought, is that, and it probably even goes back to Richard Matheson, but in the say particularly with King and Straub, the horror writers of that boom in the 70s and the 80s, they were taking horror narratives and then they were jamming them up against, in King's case, like Peyton Place. That's the joke, right? That Salem's Lot is Dracula meets Peyton Place. In other words, like a novel of sort of small town American life, you know, but with an emphasis on the sort of sordid secrets and all that. And Straub does something kind of similar, you know, where he takes the sort of gothic stuff and the horror stuff and he jams that up against stuff that maybe it's a little more like Henry James, but so there was something that they were doing, and I think that's part of the reason that they were so monstrously successful, was because, you know, the horror was in the suburbs, you know,
Right.
or wherever it was you lived. And they had just a tremendous impact. You know, we are all in a sense their children, even if, you know, as with the Clash, we're like, fuck you, Stephen King, I'm going to do my own thing. Actually, I'd like you to excise that from the podcast later. I don't want that.
That's the preview, actually. Just that clip.
That cost you some red M&Ms, John.
Kids are supposed to say "fuck you" to their parents,
Right? You know, and so that we but like, so they were there, you know, and King has maintained this kind of cultural presence. I think the difference, and this is like, because there was, of course, this horror crash in the 90s, at least from a commercial standpoint. I think there were two things that happened. One was that I think people were rewriting Stephen King novels. They weren't doing what Stephen King had done in his novels, which is to say, to like take these different influences and kind of smash them together. And I think the other thing, obviously, the small press now has really helped as well. But I think what you see with all these exciting writers who are at work now, right? I mean, yeah, like Unbury Carroll, right? It's a horror story, but it's a Western, you know, what's going on there, right? And you know, someone like Paul Tremblay, you know, is doing like a sort of a zombie novel, but also sort of a rabies novel, but also ironically a COVID novel that he didn't realize he was writing. You know, Stephen Graham Jones is doing a sort of, you know, The Only Good Indians is on the one hand, it's kind of like Ghost Story, you know, sort of spectral revenge, but it's also about what it's like to be a Native American man living in the United States at this particular time.
Right.
So I think that's where I see the writers, and I'm not sure when it begins, like say the turn of the millennium, just for kicks. But I think what you've seen all these writers doing is that they're not just writing the next Stephen King novel. Like Stephen King is definitely there. He's in the conversation. He's like, he's your grandpa, you know, but your dad might be Cormac McCarthy or Toni Morrison or somebody, you know, and because of that, you're able to bring, I think it's absolutely true, right? The diversity of voices that we see right now. It's not that those guys, I mean, it's not that King and Straub didn't welcome other writers, but publishing was like, hey, here's some white guys, let's go. And I think what you see right now is a real openness to, on the part of big publishing as well, to a writer like Tanana Reeve Dew or Stephen Graham Jones, Cheshire Burke, you know, who represents a point of view that maybe hasn't always been in the mainstream. So it's really exciting. And also, I also think streaming has something to do with this, because I think the explosion of streaming services, they're looking for content. Right. So, you know, someone like Adam Neville, 2 of his novels have been picked up, and they've shown up on Netflix.
Wendigo, the Wendigo story.
That my Wendigo story?
No. The ritual.
You making an announcement here?
It is kind of, I was like, oh, do you know something? I don't. No, you're right. The monster, the Jotun in the ritual. Yeah. And then in No One Gets Out Alive, there's whatever that is. So I also think that's helping horror too. Is I think that search for content on the part of all these streaming services who are competing against each other, I do think that's working to our advantage too. But I could be wrong about that one. That's just like talking out of my orifices.
Well,
no, but I think you're right. I think that there certainly is a more wide open space now for horror authors today to write from their own perspective rather than emulate somebody like King or Straub or you know, those who came before. And people seem to be picking up that in spades and running with it. So, you know, when we sat out to look at who we were going to invite for Dark Stars, we wanted that net really wide because we wanted to show people that, I think with Dark Forces, they really tried to, I think one of the things that Kirby McCauley tried to do was to show that horror was a literary genre. And I think, that point's been proven. I think we pretty much everybody, except for maybe the, literati, whoever those are. I think most people would agree that horror can be a literary genre, but really what we were trying to do with Dark Stars is to just show the diverseness, the wide number of voices and the different ways, as Josh says, that people were stretching, what it means to be horror in all sorts of different ways. So, hopefully we were able to accomplish that.
Sometimes I like to imagine that it's Brian Keene's The Rising because it's 2003. It's Brian, who's like a very powerful personality, and it's called The Rising. I feel like, I don't know, sometimes I like to trace this whole sort of modern moment that's happening back to that book. Just throwing it out there.
It's an interesting idea because Brian is one of those people actually, honestly, it's funny because I'm thinking who isn't least, Brian has tremendous integrity. And I mean, he has tremendous integrity about what he's doing.
Right.
It was when Laird Barron and I became friends, or when Paul Tremblay and I became friends, part of the reason we became friends was we liked each other's work and we responded to this integrity. There's a line, actually Straub is talking about the first time he met King in person. King and his family came to England, and Straub talks about that, how there was just this absolute sense of integrity to what this guy was doing, that he took it seriously. Maybe he didn't take himself seriously, but he believed it. He wasn't like, oh, it's just this little thing. He was like, no, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
And I really think that sense of integrity is really, it's pretty widespread, and I think it's a good thing. I think if you don't take yourself seriously and what you're doing seriously, how is anybody else going to do it? Right. And yeah, sometimes you fail, sometimes you succeed, whatever. But Brian is I think in terms of somebody who just was like, no, I am doing this and I'm taking this seriously. Yeah, right. There were like Tom Piccirilli, there were other people sort of related to that group. Yeah.
He's a good example of what I was mentioned earlier, where, I mean, the person that helped him, for those that don't know, the person that helped him with ironing out the details of his contract, which is really important and can set a writer up or could crush him, was Jack Ketchum. And I know all us five love that guy, but
oh yeah,
he is such an important figure, and it's really neat. Like, he was Philip K. Dick's literary agent, and it's just really neat. We're all connected. I tell my wife this sometimes. She's not huge in the books like we are, but we're basically one writer away from knowing that person. It's a huge world, but I mean, at the end of the day, it really doesn't even matter the genre, because there's a lot of there's a lot of crossing wires there. Brennan, do you want to take us in a different direction?
No, not really. I'm loving this. Actually, I want to jump in on, something that we were just kind of mentioning, the whole idea of taking your art seriously, and, that being such a necessary component for everybody else to take it seriously. And this is kind of a different direction, but I think that as writers, there's a certain almost expectation that there's going to be a little bit of modesty and humbleness and self depredation, and you got to be careful with that. It's just kind of one of those things where you want to be humble. You don't want to present yourself as, I am the greatest thing since sliced bread, and like Stephen King, I deserve my own 2 shelves. But at the same time, if you don't give yourself that credence, then why if you don't present yourself as worth people's time, why are they gonna give you your time? And I totally love Josh's point where, Brian Keene did have that, atmosphere, like here's what I'm doing, and just he chucked it at us. You know, that book, you read it and it is off the wall bonkers. It's, you know, I could imagine somebody writing something like that and saying, oh, it's just having a laugh, you know, just this is for fun. But, you know, he made an entire career out of writing, you know, out of characterizing like that, out of, you know, ripping people to shreds. And I think the confidence behind that could be a big contributing factor to why horror is having the moment it's currently having.
You know, it almost feels like that book is a bit of a connection to the past, like zombie story, and the future. You know, in every other way we're talking about it. I wonder, like, this is something I think about a lot actually, is that and I talk to Allison about this all the fucking time, is that I do feel like a lot of people are afraid of the word artist. And if you guys here aren't into it, then you're not into it. But I really, really am. Like I think that oftentimes I'll see people like, I'm not an artist. I'm just putting, you know, bread on the table.
I'm a craftsman, right? It's I'm a craftsman. I'm not an artist, or you know, yeah.
And I get it and I dig it, but I'm just here to say, like an artist, it doesn't, you don't picture like a pipe and a beret, for fuck's sake. An artist, like, you can have like fun, man.
I'm glad I didn't wear my pipe and beret.
I know. I'm thinking I love my beret and I have fun in my beret.
I mean, by definition, you guys can Google it. Artist does cover a wide variety.
Well, it does. And I think that, you know, people, there are a lot of people that just don't want to come off as sounding pretentious. So,
but here's what I'm saying. Yes, I'm with you, and I get it. But like, it doesn't have to be pretentious. Like,
no.
like an artist is like drunk or fun or like dumb, like fails at this book, and like you can be like a pell mell artist. You can be like a living Jackson Pollock. Are you know, like I feel like maybe me and Steven are sort of like gunslingers with the books. It's like, I'm gonna throw a lot of interceptions, but you know, we're gonna win some games too. And it's like, there's nothing like pretentious there. It's like, come on, let's go. But there is this sense of, yes, we're trying to do something great. Right. Pretentious to me would be more like, I don't even know, like something more along the lines of like, what I'm doing is very important, and what, you know, that kind of thing. The word artist, whatever, in any way that I can add or help to soften that word or colorize that word or electrify that word, because I do think we're all artists.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we're all like doing it. Even the ones that are like, nope, I'm just putting bread on the table. You're an artist that's doing that. You just don't realize that.
Well, at its most base definition, an artist is somebody who creates art. And, you know, we spend, all of us spend so much time communicating with creative types that we almost kind of feel the need to branch off into more specific labels. But, you know, I go to my day job, and not everybody, you know, has the, I don't want to say ability, but not everybody goes home at night and tries to put words on the page, tries to put paint on the canvas, tries to put, you know, charcoal on paper. It's, you know, the normies look at anybody who creates and say that's an artist, they're creating art. Musicians too, we can't leave musicians out of there. Sure. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a pretentious term at all. I think that there are certainly some people who could put that stigma on it, but it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
I think more like Cassavetes, like John. I think about him when I think about the word, and how it's like a do-it-yourself, like this indie, like I'm gonna make it happen no matter what.
Right.
And he's a cool dude in a real straight sort of like, we're gonna get this done, guys, way. And so there's like a working man aspect of Cassavetes, and even his films have some of that in what he's talking about. And there's a streets and real life, you know, feel to it. But if that dude's not an artist, I don't know anyone that is, you know. And so I think about him when I think of that word.
Yeah, there's something about it, isn't like, you know, like the sort of pursuit of the vision, whatever it is you want to do, you know, but pursuing that thing, and maybe you're self-conscious about it. I mean, I think of King back in the 70s saying, oh, I'm the Big Mac and fries of literature, you know, and then realizing that, you know, and he was trying to be sort of modest and all this, but then realizing that he'd set himself up for critics to say, oh yeah, you're right, you know, just to dismiss him. And if again, you dismiss yourself, other people are going to dismiss you. pursuing, like having that passion to follow, that's a big deal. And
Mhm.
yeah, I absolutely, I feel like I'm surrounded by artists, electronically
Absolutely.
or
Yeah.
whatever, like there's so many people working with such integrity right now.
Mhm.
I mean, Olivia Llewellyn, for God's sake.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's just, you want to talk about someone who's pursuing like a singular vision and is just like, nope, this is what I'm doing. This is me.
Right.
And it's maybe, it's maybe not fair to I guess I'm a little leery of saying, look, there are, like, you could be popular and still be pursuing your vision, like you can
Mhm.
be, Dean Koontz or whatever can be, pursuing his vision, whatever that is. You can leave the thing about Koontz in. That's okay.
Was that a shot?
Sorry. I'm sorry, Dean Koontz.
Man, he said fuck Stephen King and they just took a shot too. Who else
Right,
are you gonna make fun of?
I loved Watchers and Phantoms too. I love those, and the one about the voodoo, I like that one too. And the one on top of the skyscraper with the psychotic twin climbers they're like German and they're trying to kill
that sounds
somebody.
amazing.
Do you remember that? Anyway,
Not the face
but-
of fear. No. That's the
yeah,
opposite
it's something might be, yeah, but somehow the guys are trying to get in. I feel like because
I haven't read a
They-
Koontz novel in decades.
it's once upon a time I read it was the 80s. Things happened.
That's right. That's a
and,
good way to put it.
He's going to show up at my front door tomorrow. He's like, "You son of a bitch!"
He's
I'm
gonna
open
stop
the door.
listening to the show. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's just going to punch me out, and I'm going to be like, "Who is that?"
Read my books, you fucker. Does he swear? You guys think that Koontz swears? He doesn't look like it.
He might.
He does look like a darn it guy. Like, darn it.
But the thing is, like, he's at least in those early. I think he was one of those people. Actually, that's a tangent, but whatever. We're talking about the 80s. I think he just realized he, in a way, wasn't really a horror writer. That he was interested in other things, and he did his horror adjacent stuff, but then went off to do his other stuff. Which fair enough. No harm to the guy. He could buy me and sell me 1,000,000 times over. People could show up tomorrow and they could just be like, "Nope, I'm sorry, Dean Koontz bought you," and I'd be like, "Well, what are you gonna do?"
You, John, squandered your lifetime supply of red M&Ms.
I did, didn't I? That was what
he
happened.
He could have hooked you up with that.
He could have, and he's like, now he's eating them. Now he's just stuffing his face.
He's watching this
Take
right now.
that,
Even though it's not released yet, he's that wealthy. He's watching this now.
Right? Even though this is being pre-recorded, he has to
Tapped into the stream.
Every time his name pops up on the internet, he's like, "What are they saying? How dare they?"
Well, that's probably rare.
Darn it!
Get me another golden retriever.
You Thomas's.
Right? It's like, "Get me another killer baboon. He's going to work on them."
The fuck was the question?
Not anticipate this much Dean Koontz shit talking.
Maybe not.
Like, definitely a little, but not
No,
this
but
much.
suddenly, like, the other side of me is feeling like, should we reach out? Like, does he need like us to reach out to him or something? Like, he's not like he's not online. He's not at conventions. Does he need a helping hand?
You think he needs an intervention, Josh?
I think Dean Koontz might need like a friend.
Horror
I'm gonna look
intervention.
at it. I'm gonna find out where he lives and just go to his house. I'll let you guys know how it goes.
He needs a friend intervention.
I feel like this is the next Netflix show. Dean Koontz needs a friend.
Oh my god!
Horror intervention.
It's going to be Josh Malerman trying to be his friend, and he's going,
I'd
"Who
watch
are
that.
you?"
Let me go check it out.
Josh is like, "I've got a guitar. I'm going to sing you some songs. Come on. What do you know, Dean? What do you know? Come on, Neil Diamond. Let's go."
That would be a good story if a group of horror writers got him to try to go back to horror, and he would be watching Shameless. Shout out to Josh. Did I ask the question though? Because I legit forget.
I don't remember.
I feel Brennan was trying to say something meaningful.
Yeah, I think Brennan asked the
Particular.
question.
No, it's a real dilemma because I'm debating whether I want to ask a question or just like let you
it
guys
go.
go.
Reagan, what
question.
other authors
Yeah.
do you want to talk shit about?
I mean, Brennan, what you just said is exactly pretty much how like I write books. It's like, do I want to ask this question? Do I want to outline this, or do I want to just keep going, man? Or do I, there'll be like a few like landmark sort of like maybe I talked to you, John Langan, about this on the phone before. Like there's like a few maybe scares or landmark moments I have in mind, maybe just even the first one and like the last one. And it's like, we got to get from here to there. Okay, well, then that's fine. We'll get from there. Yeah. And sometimes I'm afraid, just like you jokingly just said, but sometimes I'm afraid to ask those questions or have an outline or have any sense of direction. I just like, let's just feel, let's go, let's feel, let's go, let's feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe you're experiencing that same feeling, Brennan.
Josh, I got a question for you, man. So there's no segues here. It doesn't fucking matter. So Clive Barker blurbed you on Goblin. I got to know how that came about. How do you feel about that still?
Man.
Like he's one of the fucking greatest writers ever, all time.
Yeah, I totally agree. The publisher, Paul at Earthling, because Goblin originally came out as that limited with Earthling, and Paul Miller had done a book with Clive Barker before, and he sent him Goblin. And then this is I remember it was like the last house I lived in. I was in the office when he wrote me, and he was like, "Hey, Clive Barker blurbed your book," and I was like, "Wait, what? What the fuck are you? What's going on right now?" And he's like, "No, he did." You know, years later, I went to a horror convention where he was at, and Allison and I and another friend were there. And I was like I met Clive Barker just as someone in line signing books, you know. And I was too nervous to like even tell him who I was, like, or that I wrote Goblin, not who I was, you know, who I was, you know. But my friend was like, Mr. Barker, you blurbed his book Goblin, you know. And he was like, oh, his voice is like fucking exact, like super sing-songy, like it was like years ago. He was like, oh, wonderful, you know. And he was like, I love that book for town, you know. And then that was kind of it. And Allison steps in, and him and Allison they had like a moment. They just like really connected. And for the next like 20 minutes, me and my friend were standing on the side while Allison was like pretty much like kneeling in front of the table, like talking to him, and he was like drawing her pictures. And we had and they were like talking about, because he's a painter, Allison's a painter, all this stuff. And I'm like, God, he blurbed, you know, he likes Allison better than he likes me, man. I was like, this guy's definitely connecting more with Allison than he is. It's like, all right, fine. That's what happened today. Allison became friends with Clive Barker, and that's a good thing.
That's amazing. And then Josh shakes his face off. And it's Allison, because she's done that before. She looks exactly like you. I'm done making that joke. That's an amazing story, though. Seriously, that's so cool, because for me, like, I'm going to speak on Brennan's behalf, too, because we're in the same generation. It's really awesome to see a writer that we both love getting blurbed by an older author of the previous generation that we love. Like, that's so cool, because first off, it gives us hope. Secondly, it's two authors we love. Thirdly, it's only a win because it's like love on love on horror on love. So yeah, that's all I got. No end into that.
And talk about elasticity and being ahead of their times, like Clive Barker and Anne Rice is like, I can't even don't even get me started, as John Taff knows. I can't stop talking about her.
Still reading those books.
Oh yeah, I'm on number 12 now out of 18.
How many are there?
Well, there's 18 vampire and witch books, and I'm through the 12th one, and just the two of them are like so elastic. I mean, you could argue. I mean, Stephen King for sure is with The Dark Tower, and maybe the final third of It, and a million other examples. But those two especially to be bestsellers, because Dean Koontz is like a fairly straight shot, but Clive Barker and Anne Rice are weirdos, and they're brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Comes out the gate with Books of Blood, and I mean, just pick one story in there, and it's just
dread.
I mean, for its time, it's just beyond anything, and still to this day, it's so unique. Let's get back to Dark Stars, Brennan. I'm leaning heavily on you. What?
Dark what?
Let's get back to Dark Stars. Am I lying?
Dark Tower. John, I'd like to, Taff, I'd like to ask you a question about the Dark Tower. No, you were talking about how
Dark Taff.
Dark Taff. You were talking about compiling the list of authors, and man, that couldn't have been an easy feat. So I wondered, why did you decide?
Koontz and
he said no.
Yeah.
You wouldn't give him a golden retriever, so he said no. Got it. Why'd you decide novelette length?
For the same reason that we didn't give anybody a theme. I really wanted people to come back with whatever they wanted to write, whatever they were jazzed to write about, and really put their heart and their passion to, and then, in the same terms, give them some elbow room to do it. So instead of having, I don't know, 15 or 20 short stories, I just thought it would be better to have a smaller amount of stories with a little bit of elbow room for people to tell their stories. Now Langan went way over.
Is that what this is about? Was this was just so you just brought me here to shame me? Is that it?
Actually,
that's great.
There were a number of things that happened on the book that were kind of serendipitous, and John's story was one of them. In Dark Forces, they were all short stories, and then the ending story in the book was King's The Mist, which is not a short story. So when I got John's story in, serendipitously, it was a longer story than anybody else's, and so it was like, I thought it was the perfect note to go out on, not just to sort of emulate Dark Forces, but also, just if you've read John's story, just the strength of the story was a great, knee to the groin to give to the reader before they put the book down.
Yes, people, that's what you have to look forward to. A knee to the groin. A knee to the groin.
Nice shit.
You're thinking to yourself, what do I need this weekend? I need a knee to the groin.
You've got
what you need.
You can use that on your next book, John.
I hope to. Langan gives a knee to the groin.
But yeah, so just to give people a little bit more elbow room to tell their story.
Perfect.
So how about putting the stories in some kind of order once you got them all in? Patrick was talking about just how well this thing hits from beginning to end. And I feel like a big part of the reasoning behind that is just the diversity. And, you talked about the diversity of authors and, backgrounds, but the diversity of stories too. You just don't get two that are like, oh, gee, I really feel like I've already read this one. So how was the editing process in that regard?
Well, and I think anybody that has been in an anthology or put together an anthology, and certainly Josh can speak to this too, it's like an album. We've discussed this before, Josh and I, that it's like putting an album together. It's like picking the tracks that are going to be on the album and then putting the album together, in terms of which track is going to be first, second, third, fourth, and what you're going to end up with. So, it's pretty subjective. It was probably mainly just a personal decision from me about what stories hit what, tones and plot points and that kind of stuff, and kind of the rhythm that I wanted to see a reader go through if they did indeed read the book, in order of the stories. So, it was just a purely personal thing with me that, when I got Caroline's story, at first when I got Caroline's story, I really liked it. And I really thought for a while that I struggled with it a while, because I really thought that maybe I should open the book with a much more, quote unquote, traditional kind of horror story. And that by opening with Caroline's story might give people the wrong idea where the book was headed. But then I said, screw that. I just thought hers was a good story to open with. And then, John's the same way. It was a great story. And the fact that it allowed me to emulate Dark Forces a little bit better, that sort of had a lock on that. But everything else was sort of in terms of a rhythm and, making sure I didn't have too, magical stories that kind of slanted more towards magical realism or dark fantasy. I don't want to mash those kind of stories up together, that sort of thing. But I think with anybody that puts anything together like that, it's pretty personal. But I'm glad to hear that that you dug the way the stories were ordered.
Absolutely. So, go ahead.
I think Carolyn's is a perfect like album opener, to use what you were saying. There's just some, because it's like the opening of an album doesn't even, like, I think if you take like the White Album, the second album too, I think it opens with Birthday, and it's like that's not indicative of what's to come.
Right, true.
But it's like what it is though is like the band sort of takes a bow, and there's a sense here, there's like a spirit to it, there's like a lift, like you're in for, like, Carolyn's story like moves, and and it's freaky, and it's palatable, and it's not in a bad way, poppy. And so I think that's like that's a great opening track if you think of it. Like, you don't want to, I wouldn't necessarily want to open with the Pink Floyd song, you know? You know, like the total fucking mind bender, and then shrink it down. So I feel like I totally get what you're saying. And
the ending thought for me on Carolyn's story was sort of like that idea that her story opened in a more traditional manner, which kind of maybe would lull people who are reading it into thinking, oh, okay, well, this seems like I can do, if this is horror, I can do this. And then, you know, when she twists the knife, you're too far into the story to back out. So you're like, oh my God, what just happened here? What is going on? So, you know, I hope that would kind of, you know, keep people interested in a traditional sense, but still keep them on one foot so that they didn't know what was next. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. And I thought that was
no, I had a drink.
Go ahead, take another shot and take a crack at it. No, I thought that was a fabulous opener, and it was, you know, Carolyn is a perfect example of that author who fits squarely into the horror genre, but there are so many of her readers that wouldn't necessarily put her there and look for her work in that section of the bookstore. So that even before you read the story, putting her story first is a really intriguing idea. So John Langan talked about his story a little bit. Josh, I want to hear a little bit about yours.
Okay. Well, what do you want to hear? Just
well, actually, I got to be honest. I have a confession to make about your story. So I sat down with this book, and I like to, when I read an anthology, I like to read a story a day and just kind of digest it and hit it again the next night. And I believe that your story was up on a Friday night, and I had just had a hellish week. So I came home from work and I had a drink, and then I had 3 or 4 more. And then I sat down with your story and I read it, and I kind of had a, what the fuck did I just read type of moment. And I had to go back with a clear mind and look at it again, because it's just, you just drop the reader right into the middle of it. And if you're not, you know, adequately prepared to be Malerman, it's an experience.
You're a verb now.
You know, yeah, exactly. But it had almost kind of like, you know, once you get to the heart of it, like almost this like Memento vibe to it, where you're just lost until you're not. So anything you want to share with us that wouldn't spoil it?
You know, I
like
guess
that.
something that freaks me out mightily is the idea of like, well, something that turns me on is the hunt, right? And so these 4 guys are going after the witch in the hunt, and we're going after her, guys. But the thing that freaks me out is the idea of like, are we really like are we like, or do we just think we are? That sense of like distorted, you know, not just distorted reality, but like literally, and nowhere near like, am I dreaming? But like, is she fucking with us already? Have I even left the house? Like that, and there's a lot of that in Pearl as well, and on This Day of the Pig, that sense of like, who the fuck is running me right now? And I think that's like a real great fear of mine, is like, it's kind of like the fear of having a bad acid trip, right? It's like the fear of like losing control, like losing like my psychological like faculties. And so, whereas like, I don't necessarily think Mrs. Addison's Nest is a story where the walls of reality erode. I don't really see it that way, but I do see it as like, shit, the closer we get to this nest, the closer we get to this woman, the worse this is for us. And maybe we shouldn't even be doing this, but we are. And because we shouldn't be, we've tattooed on our arms like, hey, remember what you're doing. remember where you are, you're in Werther Woods, this kind of thing. Thinking that would be enough. If I was one of those 4 dudes, I would have tattooed a lot more than that on my arm. I'd be like, hey, listen, dude, like, you're gonna fucking not know where you are. It would be like a novel on my arm. I'd be like, oh, guys, hold on. I know what's happening. Hold on, it's on my arm. Not just one little platitude. But yeah, so for me, whatever, I'm like a big fan of The Hunt, and I'm also a big fan of the witch that doesn't just mash up babies for jelly, but also screws with your reality in so much as, you know, that's her defense mechanism. That's how she defends her nest, is that you don't even know that you're at her nest.
Yeah, I absolutely dig that. The witch that that the type of magic that just alters reality all around you. It's yeah, I have a story coming out next year that dips into that a little bit, and I think that might be one of the reasons, now that I'm thinking of it, that I looked at yours and I said, yeah, this one speaks to me. I like this one.
Oh shit. I didn't even put that together.
Yeah.
But just recently I was asked, like, have you tried LSD before? And I'm like, wow, it's taken long. This took up till Pearl, Mrs. Anderson's Ghoul N The Cape. And now people are like, oh, this guy's I get him now. This guy tried acid.
What was your answer?
Well, I gave a long story of I only tried it once. And I gave an entire fucking story of this bad trip that I had and my friends not helping me and thinking they were helping me, and anyway, blah, blah, blah. But we'll look at that. The answer is yes. One time I did do it. Yeah. And it was terrifying. Because I believe that certain people are born psychedelic. And whereas like some of my friends they took this drug and it was like a party for them. They're like, look at the shower curtain, it's moving. And I'm like, the shower curtain, the fucking earth is moving around the sun right now. What are you talking about? Like past this fucking shower curtain right now, man.
Wow.
and you know, I'm like, and for me, it was just like right away, like downward spiral into like fear and not self-doubt necessarily, but uneasiness, anxiety, all these kind of things. And my friends were all like, they had a strobe light and a rubber chicken, and it was like a big fun night for everyone else.
I'll ask what happened to
It's
rubber
the one
chicken.
time.
But
That's the one time. Yep.
Brennan, I'm leaning on you again, buddy. I got rubber chicken on my mind, so go ahead, bud.
We'll see now Taff, Dark Taff, John 1.
Yes.
He's the only one who hasn't talked about his story. So let's
That's
talk
really
about John's
Langan.
story.
That's
How,
Langan.
how does he get to, all right, never mind. Fine. I see where this is going.
Sorry, John. Langan.
How dare you is what Langan was gonna
my
say.
screen, you're hanging off to the side. So, I mean, I'm just going sequentially here.
That never mind. Never mind, Brennan. It's too late.
It's too late.
It's too late. The earth is moving, Brennan. It's moving.
I'm going to get such a nasty package in the mail.
We can always
Not gonna
call
have
Dean
M&Ms in it,
Koontz.
that's for sure.
Push comes to shove, we can always call Dean Koontz.
Great. Great.
So
I'm reaching out to him, and I'm not even kidding. I'm gonna like find out if this guy needs a fellow weirdo.
What do you want to know about my story?
So just give us a little background on it.
You know, I like one of my favorite kinds of horror is the horror that isolates the characters in a small space. It isolates the number of characters too, to a small number of characters, and then weird shit happens, and then you can play with that dynamic of people who are trapped together, and undergoing this experience, and how it affects each of the individual characters, but also the interplay between the characters. So, you know, I thought of the idea, just my wife and I were taking a drive, and we passed a rest area in Missouri. And I just thought to myself as we drove past, that'd be a great setting for a horror movie, because they're so weirdly creepy and liminal. You know, they're people are there at all hours of the day and night, all sorts of people. The place is lit weird. Usually the architecture of the buildings is kind of weird and utilitarian, and you go in and it's nothing basically but snack food vending machines and linoleum and bad bathrooms. So I just thought it would be kind of weird to put a story in that and see what happens. And, I'd also been playing around with this idea that, there's that trope about a divorce being kind of like a death. But what if you twist that around and that death is sort of a divorce? And then it just, all came together pretty quickly. So, so isolate the characters, have some weird shit going along, and, see what happens.
John, that was a really cool description of a rest stop, man. I was like kind of riveted. I really was. There are people there at all hours of the day and night, and there it is. Like
It's just a weird and creepy space. It really kind of is.
Yeah, liminal indeed.
John, do you have John number one? I should specify. Do you have a real story based on the Puking Man?
No, I don't know where that came from. It just, when the character presented himself, it just, the characters are all kind of representative of different things, and along the same lines that I was kind of looking at death being a divorce. There's a sort of an attorney for the dead wife. That's the Puking Man, and then there's an attorney for the main character, who is Maya, the other woman. And as so often happens when you're writing, a character presents itself and just sort of tells you who he is, and you just have to roll with it. And when he came out, he was puking. So
yeah. I'm going to second that. I dug the description of the rest area, and it's a space where if you ever have to stop at one, like it can look totally abandoned, and you can't walk into that bathroom without looking back over your shoulder first.
No. It's a place you don't want to linger. So that's why I thought it would be kind of a neat place to isolate some people there.
Yeah.
And for the isolation factor, and maybe this is just me, but one thing that freaks me out, and I both love and hate seeing it in stories, is when the weather does shit that it's not supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's just such a good tool to play with, because it's like you can take something as innocent as a little bit of snow and give it like a malevolent like personality. And I just think that's such a good tool to impose on your audience.
And snow in horror movies and in horror literature is kind of something that I'd wanted to play with, and I actually would like to play with that a little bit more. And I think John's story does that pretty effectively too. The snow and the weather, and it's all very much almost a character in the story. And I think there's something about winter, the snow and the cold and your breath steaming, and the way sometimes when the snow falls, you can't really see, a foot ahead of you. All that is kind of, it really resonates. It's kind of deeply creepy to me.
Yeah. Being a New Englander myself, man, snow can be hell. When I picture hell, it's a blizzard where it's so cold that you can't feel anything, and not even beer can warm you up. So you're from Illinois?
I'm from Missouri, St. Louis, but we live in Illinois now.
All right, that's what threw me off, because the story's in Illinois, and I thought you were from there. Okay, anyways, do you have any real life experiences, just in general, with winters that you remember certain physical, I guess, reactions, feelings, and so forth that you just kind of put in this story?
I don't know. I guess I'm starting to be old and starting to think that everything that occurred to me as a child was a lot worse, a lot more, So when I think back to when I was a kid and think about the snowstorms that I was in as a kid, it always just seems like, there was more snow, it was colder, you had to walk inestimable distances to get to wherever you were going through the cold. So, all that kind of stuff kind of informed me. I've never really lived in a place where there wasn't a change of seasons, so there wasn't a definite winter, a definite fall, a different spring, summer. So I think probably all of that kind of went into informing what I wrote.
I want to kind of change gears here with Tor Nightfire, and especially for potential readers that aren't familiar with Tor Nightfire. Taff, I'm gonna go with you because you are the editor. I would love to hear your whatever you have to say about that publisher and why you went with them.
Well, at first I'll just say that working with them has been great. I mean, their whole team there is, they've only recently started to publish horror as a distinct imprint of Tor. And Dark Stars rather, was one of the first books that they put out under that line. So, the team there is very excited about horror as a genre. They're very excited about the people that are in Dark Stars and the people that they've assembled in the first line of books that they're putting out. And they've been great to work with. I mean, they're very energetic and they're very committed to what they're doing. And as a partner in putting this book together, I didn't know how much or how little they were going to involve me, but they've been really good about involving me in decisions that I wouldn't have thought that a big publisher would, seek to involve me in, like the cover and that kind of stuff. So the whole experience has been great. Why Tor? I think, again, like a lot of this thing that happened with this book, it was very serendipitous that, Josh and I had talked about it for a while and we had gotten some people to say yes, but we weren't really able to, gather any interest for it. And then I think it was at StokerCon in Providence, I think, where I was having a drink with Usman T. Malik, and he had said that he has a contact at Tor Nightfire that might be interested in the book, and one thing led to another, and he passed the book over to an editor by the name of Diana Foe, who's no longer there. She works for Realm Media now, but she really liked the book, really liked the idea. Well, the idea, she hadn't seen the book at that point. We were just putting together the table of contents, but she liked the idea and she liked the names that we had selected. So she basically gave me the task of filling out the table of contents, which I did literally in a day. It was the quickest I've ever been able to turn around a complete table of contents. So got the people that I wanted to commit to respond, and went back to them with that, and they were on board. So I think it worked out really well.
And that's incredible. They're definitely highly sought after by.
They're great. They're really great. And just so that we touch on it, because I know people are going to be asking about it. Let me take a drink here. Gin. There was a printing error. The book had started to get out in the wild. There was a printing error in that one folio of the book was incorrectly bound, and it jumbled up the pages between two of the stories in the center of the book. So if you've gotten an early actual physical hard copy of the book, at this point, it probably has that mix up in it. Say that collector's edition.
Collector's item. Yep.
Yeah. But to their credit, they went and looked. They found out that it was a printer's error, and they made the commitment right away to reprint the entire run of the book. So that's a delay. And also to their credit, when I first learned, I thought, God, this is probably going to hold this thing up for 6 months, knowing that the problems that not just the horror industry, but every kind of industry is having with supply chain issues and that sort of thing. And the fact that a lot of the printing was bumped back anyway because of paper shortages. So I thought it's probably going to be 6 months, but to their credit, they got it done, and the book will be out May 10th. great, because it's right in time for StokerCon. So
Perfect.
yeah, so that was a perfect thing. So
That's awesome.
if you got the original issue, the original copy of the book, there is going to be a mechanism for people to get a replacement book. I don't know what that is yet, but we'll make sure that that is posted everywhere.
It's like an
But if you-
ejector seat in your office, but
it's just going to burst into flames in your hands and a new
Yeah.
one
it
appears.
bursts into flames, a new one just comes out of your left sleeve.
But
Ta-da.
yeah, hang on to it because it's a collector's issue.
Very cool, man.
I've got a set of like 10 or 11 volumes of Edgar Allan Poe books from the turn of the 19th century, 20th century. And one of the books, I think it's like volume 6 or 7, is printed completely upside down.
Whoa.
And I've held on. I got they were my great-grandfather's books, and he split them amongst the family, and I've gathered them all back together, and I have them right back here on my bookshelf. So that one that is printed completely upside down, how many people, probably have that at this point? So
I feel like that's something I should have known about you already, that you have like the freakiest freak book of a freak, you know what I mean? Like that's like, you have a fucking Edgar Allan Poe book that was printed upside down. Like, I feel like everyone in the horror scene should know. Yeah, Taff has that book. Yeah,
and, and it was like, this one's printed upside down. You probably should try to get a new copy. I'm like, shit, no.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
Why would I do that?
Yeah.
But Tor's been great.
I just want to touch on one story in there, Usman's story.
Mhm.
I mean, I loved it. I thought it was really cool. That Pakistani lore isn't something I'm super familiar with. So just hearing that, and I actually reached out to him to tell him this, and I'll echo it here. I thought it was really cool that he focused. I don't think this is a spoiler. If it is, tell me, I'll cut it. I thought it was really cool how he focused on a single element, a single natural element, phosphorus, and what he did with that was just like it was like a hard sci-fi mixed with a dark and gritty at times. Holy shit, like gritty horror. And
he's a fantastic writer.
Yeah,
he really is. And the thing with the way I felt about putting this book together, it really was a literal embarrassment of riches. I mean, there's not anybody I could point my finger to and say, that story, they were all really, really good, and all from completely divergent viewpoints and completely divergent tones, and it's just really cool. And I'm glad that now that it's starting to show up in the wild with review copies and that sort of stuff, that they seem to be liking it. So that that's good.
Not for nothing, John, and don't get modest here, but like, you deserve it. I mean, look, you're clearly.
He's talking to you, Langan.
You did a good job, man. I mean, you did a very good job.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I witnessed it all from the very start, from
You
him
did.
talking about it till now, and it's absolutely phenomenal, John. Congrats.
Well, thank you.
Congrats on what you put together. We all know it's not freaking easy, dude, and it's definitely not easy to do it well. And congrats.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But it really does make the job of someone like me a whole hell of a lot easier when you're dealing with people, like these two and Stephen Graham Jones. The other serendipitous thing about this book was Ramsey Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
And Josh remembers, when I thought about, I'm going to approach Ramsey to see if he'll write the afterword. And Josh was like, yeah, you should do that. Definitely. That'll be a good tie-in to Dark Forces. So I did. And, I didn't even consider asking him for a story. I just didn't think that was, an original story from him right now was probably in the cards. But, anybody that has interacted with Ramsey knows what a complete and utter gentleman he is.
So such a sweet guy.
And he's like, yeah, I would love to do the afterword. And I also, if you want it, I'll take the story. I'll do a story.
If you want it.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to turn down an original story from Ramsey Campbell. So, it just seemed like in a lot of ways that this was sort of, I know it sounds goofy and trite, but it was sort of meant to be. Everything came together the way it was supposed to. I got the people that I wanted. The stories are fantastic. So, I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of it.
Yeah. We mentioned a lot of the stories in it, but I want to make sure we don't miss anybody. So I'm going to quickly go down here. So we've got the excellent foreword we mentioned, as well as a story by Josh, Carolyn Kepnes's opener, then Ramsey Campbell, Priya Sharma, Livia Llewellyn, Stephen Graham Jones, Cheshire Burke, Alma Katsu, John FD Taff's story, of course, Gemma Files, Usman T. Malix, and we said John Langan kind of takes the headline gig. And then, of course, Ramsey Campbell's afterward. It's a hell of a lineup, man. Echo Josh, like, great job. Congratulations on,
Thank you.
Seeing this thing come out in the wild in May.
Thank you. I think people are going to like it. And, I look forward to my hope is really with the book that people will read it and be introduced to people who they're not altogether familiar with and dig a little deeper, because I think that, like we've talked about since the beginning, there really is an explosion of really, really good writers right now working in the genre. And, a lot of them, for whatever reason, don't get the notoriety or the number of readers' eyes that they deserve. So if this opens people up to some people that they're not completely familiar with, that's a job well done as far as I'm concerned.
And I do hope that we'll see people in 15 years, in 20 years that, cite this book and say it, it showed me that the depths that horror can go to, the different places that I never imagined, never even thought of. Oh shit, that's a horror story. In the same way that, you talked about how Dark Forces kind of said, this is a genre that can and should be taken seriously. So with that in mind, with this book being kind of the spiritual successor, I would love to ask each one of you, beyond just Dark Forces, what is an anthology or a single author book, if you like, but what is a book that really provided you that formative experience? And I'd like to throw it to John Langan first.
Other John, yeah.
Other John too.
It's an anthology called The Red M&Ms. Actually, Doug Winter, the book we were talking about earlier, Doug Winter put together an anthology called Primeval. And it was kind of same idea, like let's try to, I don't know if they were novelettes so much. I think most of them were short stories, but they might have been certainly long short stories. But there were, David Morrell had a story in there called Orange is for Anguish, Blue is for Insanity, which was amazing. The late Jack Cady had a story in there whose name I can never remember, which is a crime because it's a brilliant, brilliant story. That was the one, I think that was maybe like Thomas Ligotti. That was the one story of his that kind of like broke to like a bigger audience, And it was just, you look at it now and you're like, oh, it's, pretty white, pretty male, fair enough.
Right.
And that's a fair, a fair criticism. But what's in there? Stephen King had a story in there. Tom Tessier, Peter Straub. I mean, it really is a kind of a snapshot of
that's a hell of a
sort
TLC.
of larger generation of writers. Yeah.
Well, and Josh is gone.
Josh left. Josh
So
is
that
like,
means you have to answer now.
He's back.
This one
It's a good
really,
strategy. If you don't want to answer a question, just leave the damn room.
Just fucking let.
I don't know what year this came out. I could find out. Hold on, but this one really did something for me. 2007, American Supernatural Tales. I think it's S.C. Joshi did it.
Oh, okay.
That's
but it was like chronological order, right? So let me just find this real fast.
Is that a New American Library release?
Penguin Classics.
Penguin Classics, okay.
So it opens with Washington Irving, Hudson Valley Gothic, and ends with Caitlin Kiernan. ends with Caitlin Kiernan, which that story is freaking genius. And Joyce Carol Oates and Thomas Ligotti and Carl Edward Wagner, who is the other one that I brought up here, because this collection, Why Not You and I, really, really did something for me, man. In terms of, it's just a single author, but the variety of stories and the combination of like low and high and thinking low and high, and oh God, I absolutely love Carl Edward Wagner. But this one was the one that in like 07 I had written like 4 novels or something. And this one, when I remember reading this and taking notes in each story and that kind of thing, like, oh my God. Or, you know how like when you read short stories and then like you have your own ideas while you're reading them, and it's not like, oh, I want to write a circus story, but maybe like one little thing in the short story and you're like, oh, I'm going to write a story about a guy that has 1 giant foot and 1 small foot, right? And it's like, and like,
wait, hold it.
The whole list. This book was one of those for me. So American Supernatural Tales, edited by S.T. Joshi, which I hear he's not the greatest dude, but I have no idea. Edited by the dickhead S.T. Joshi. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know anything about that.
I did not think Malerman would talk shit on air.
No.
No.
I'm going to Dean Koontz's house. I'm an ambassador of Goodwill. I'll go to S.T.'s house.
Bring a white flag for Langan.
Yeah, no, I sort of know Joshi. Now I'm gonna have to like, listen, Malerman is not. He is a dick. But no, come on, man. No, don't. No. Yeah.
He talked shit about some of our peers.
Oh, there's back. Is it my turn now?
Yeah, sure.
Everybody that knows me knows that I've got an ongoing long distance bromance with Peter Straub.
Yeah.
And this book, Houses Without Doors, is
my God.
Phenomenal. And when I read this, it really stayed with me to the extent that, you know, it really showed me that horror stories don't have to really sock you right between the eyes. That you can read them and get through them, and then the horror of the story kind of slowly, as you think about the story, it kind of slowly coalesces in your mind. And this is a book that I go back and read. I probably read this every year, or at least a story within it every year. So it was a pretty big influence on me.
John, that story, like the city guide one, like the
Guide to the City.
Yeah, God, is that freaking brilliant, man.
And
that book is genius. And
this has Mrs. God in it too, which
I was going to say that was the one I was going to say that's the kind of thing that it gets weirder and weirder as it goes, and then it's over, and then it is like a depth charge or something, except it's like a depth charge that keeps going off every day or two. You're like, whoa, wait, what?
It's almost like Straub said, you want a gothic story, you motherfuckers, here's a gothic story.
Right. He's like, I'll take you Catskill Gothic and I'll give you this. Look at this, you punk.
But it's a great story. It's a great story, and it's a great book. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Taff, I just ordered that on eBay, man. I don't own that.
You will not be.
Hold on. I know that we all have a gazillion each, but now I got this one. Charles Beaumont. The Howling collection is, I mean, oh my God, this thing is just so well. There's some like later on and where you're like, okay, we've already peaked or something, but it really it's truly genius shit. I'm just real fast on the two that I wanted. Black Country, what's the one? Obviously the Howling Man, obviously, but what is that other one where the dude is buried with the horn? Do you remember? Do you know that one? Either of you? Any of you guys?
No.
Something about music. Anyway, yeah, this dude, Charles Beaumont. Whoa.
Yep.
Actually, and there's another one. I'll throw out another one just since I have it at hand here. Valancourt has done this, the Book of World Horror Stories.
Yeah.
And there's a second volume that's just come out. And these guys are just like, look, there's a ton of great horror stuff out there in places. Denmark has like this thriving horror scene, and they give out their own horror awards and all this kind of stuff. And it's just one of these deals that, I don't speak Danish. I don't read Danish, right? So I don't know about it. There's there's like all over Latin America, they're writers. So it's, I just think I just think it's like the coolest thing. You know,
Right.
I'm never going to get through all of this stuff that's out there, you know, but it's
Right.
like, it's just really cool to think that there are these writers who are doing these crazy things, and we're getting, finally, I guess you would say, to discover a lot of
Right.
them, you know,
Right.
and they're like our contemporaries, you know, like
Yeah.
man, you know, how we, the state of the world, right? But you know, I think, man, you know, imagine having some kind of huge gathering in the middle of Europe and just being like, all right, come on, let's all just hang out and talk horror, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
That
Um,
sounds wonderful.
yeah.
It does.
not too practical right now, but
Probably not.
Let's do it.
or you know, Central America, Latin America, you know, like there are just these, Japan, same thing. There are just these amazing writers, amazing groups of writers, and I don't know. I remember when I was a kid, when I was in college, and I ran across like Borges and Garcia Marquez and those
Right.
guys, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't know you could do this and get taught in college. You know, like I, you know, I love Stephen King and Peter Straub, and I knew that they, you know, had literary merit and that sort of
Right.
stuff.
Right.
But I also remember discovering Borges and Garcia Marquez and Carlos Fuentes, and just being like, oh my God, this is like the best. This is, you know, here are my people, you know.
Right.
And
which I'm sure
last year, Langan, your book, The Fisherman, got translated. I forget which country, but in Asia. What did it get translated? What language did it get translated?
Oh, Japanese. Yeah, Japanese, which was that was I, you know, I mean, I'm a child of the 70s and the 80s, so you know, G-Force and all the Godzilla movies, and you know, it was like such a big thrill to there's but you know, anytime like your book gets translated into just one other language, that's
Right.
amazing. That is like the greatest gifts that anybody can give you, you know.
I wonder if Michael David Wilson will pick up a Japanese copy over there.
Yeah, really.
That's seriously cool, though. I'm really happy for you, man.
I gotta say, I'm really glad I asked that question, because I don't have a single book that any of you named, and I'm gonna need to order some, and I can't wait to see my wife's face when they all show up in the mail. She'll be so pleased.
I know. You're. I was gonna say, yeah. You know, you might be better to just like say, no, honey, I was just ordering porn. It's fine. It's like, oh, whatever. You know.
Oh, thank God! I thought it was more damn books.
I swear to God, I didn't order 20 books again.
Again, right.
All right, so we're actually gonna wind down and start with the first outro question, which would be, what do you have coming out? I'll go with you, Taff. What do you have coming out, sir?
I've got a story that's coming out in Mark Matthews' addiction anthology, Orphans of Bliss. So does Josh.
Yes. Yes.
I've got a story coming out.
I have that. I don't have that yet. You guys have that?
You didn't have your copy yet?
Mark, so
I've got my
I assume
copy.
your copy will be free, but
I got my copy.
Wait, you do?
Yeah, it's on my shelf back here somewhere.
doesn't Mark live in the same state as you?
Yeah.
He could drive it over to you.
Roll on this one, man.
I'm gonna drive it to you.
I'm in Jersey. He's in Massachusetts. He's in Illinois. What's going on here, man?
I got a story that's going to be out in a book of stories that Doug Morano is publishing. It'll be the first book of his out of his new publishing outfit called Bad Hand Books.
Nice.
It's called The Hideous Book of Hidden Horrors. I have a story in that. I just sold a story to Sadie Hartman in her Human Monsters anthology. And then I've got a bunch of stuff that's being, shopped around right now with my agents. So that's it.
That's all good stuff though, man. Malerman, what about you, man?
This just came out. Ghoul N The Cape.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic book.
Yep.
That I'm like so freaking excited about. I can talk about for 5 hours in and of itself. Daphne comes out in September, actually. And I am in a couple of those anthologies with John Taff as well.
Nice.
I'm really excited about Bad Hand Books, by the way, John.
Yeah, Doug's a great guy.
Doug's a brilliant dude. And get a sense that, because he's done like anthologies before, but he's never done something like starting a publishing house where can this go?
Right.
There's a sense with Doug when he does something that it's going to keep going somewhere. So I feel really optimistic about everything he's doing right now. So Ghoul N The Cape, Daphne, some short stories. Oh no, I'm making a movie May 1st. We're filming a movie here at my house. Here, real fast. This is what it's about. Real fast. Is that it's about 4 like occult-minded professionals.
Is this the Tenny thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That believe they have the night off. They believe that we're just blowing off steam. We're like drinking, dancing, talking about the things that we do. Like there's a ghost hunter, there's a horror novelist, there's a creature of facts, and there's a teacher, but she's a fan of the ghost hunter anyway. So these 4 occult, interested people. And in the course of this party, in the course of this night, the ghost hunter's like meter goes off. Not to simplify, but his ghost meter goes off. But it does. Something on
That's
him.
not a euphemism, is it?
I know. I was just thinking, honey, my ghost meter just went off.
Here,
Langan's naughty.
John, here's a sign. He goes,
something has risen from the grave, if you know what I mean.
Oops, ectoplasm.
Okay, I just thought of one that I can't say. But anyway, so
Who knew it was that kind of movie? Okay.
man, I want
the
to
unfriendly ghost. All right, go ahead, Malerman.
So amongst all this like fun and games of these like occult dish, like just like professionals,
Yes.
it's like suddenly this meter goes off and the ghost hunter's like, hey, have you guys ever like checked your own house? And the horror novelist and his wife are like, well, no, our house is, come on, no. And he's like, oh, have you checked? And so begins, they thought they had the night off, but now they're at work, the 4 of them. And it's being shot in black and white. And this awesome cameraman and crew, and it's here at our house, at Alice in My House.
Nice.
Yeah, May 1st through May 5th.
Wow.
We don't have a title yet, but that's happening.
Is that a
Awesome.
short or feature?
Oh no, feature, yeah.
You're shooting that in 4 days. Holy
5
shit,
days.
man. 5.
The first 4 days,
Five, Patrick.
the first 4 days were going to be
5 days.
dry. First 4 days were dry, but because the characters are drinking on the day 5, I want everyone to be drunk. Because you can't fake drunk.
That's true. That's
you
hard.
try, but there's just these little goddamn things that you wouldn't have said or done. So look, if the last night's a bust, except for this or that moment where he or she said this, like it's worth it. So 4 days of let's do it dry and let's fucking try, and then on day 5, like all bets are off. Let's get the slam.
I can't believe you're gonna shoot a feature in 5 days. I believe in you, Malerman, but that's insane.
Yeah.
4 days dry, and then on the 5th, you get your lubrication.
Oh, back to sex. Langan, you sick pig.
I'm sorry, but it's right there. It's coming right across the
There's
plate.
so many. Is
just-
it? Is it now? Just coming right at you.
I'm just gonna add splat effects, sound effects to
And like springs poing.
I'm gonna do that. I'm
Oh
legit
my
gonna do
God.
that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw out that I had some personal stuff going on back when John Langan was on, so I was not here for John's episode, but I like that you managed to build such a rapport with him that you can say things like, John, you sick pig.
That was right. There was no rapport. That was right from the beginning. That was how I was like, hey there, Patrick. And he was like, shut up. And I was like, whoa.
That wasn't before. That was keen insight.
He does get out of control when I don't
Insight.
come.
Yeah, he was just like, Brennan isn't here, so I have to do this shit myself. It was just, he was like, what the hell is this Catskill garbage? Yeah.
I was like, I like the
Fucking
Fishers. I had a good rapport, and then Brennan came in and had to bring up our episode. What the hell is that about? Weird, awkward. John, what do you got coming out?
I'm making a movie. No.
Awesome. 3 days.
An art film in 3 days.
Oh my God. Are you guys on drugs and not sleeping?
An art film on LSD in 3 days.
It's no.
How much
I have,
sex is involved?
That remains to be seen.
It's called ectoplasm. The music.
We will see it.
There's a whole What We Do in the Shadows reference that I want to make that I'm not going to make. But if you've seen What We Do in the Shadows, you know what I'm talking about.
Now I'm horny.
Laszlo. Okay, yeah, helping out his ghost. I have a collection coming out in May, a new collection called Corpse Mouth and Other Autobiographies.
Ooh.
And I have about the same time, I think, my first collection, Mr. Gaunt, is being reissued by Word Horde. It'll have a new story in it, a little story, but a new story. And then I'll have another novella in Ellen Datlow's monster book, whose name I can't really. Oh my God, if Ellen were here, she would just like kill me. But it's funny because I'm thinking it's another Catskill Gothic sort of thing, you know? So
expanding that universe, man. That's cool.
Yeah, well, I'm looking for toys next. That's what I want. Or action figures. Action figures, as we call them.
They're called dildos.
Whoa, that was not, wow, okay.
I'm gonna Catskill
action
Gothic
figures.
Well, are you working on a novel as well?
In my head.
Cool. I'm just wondering. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. No, I do actually, and it'll be another freaking Catskill Gothic. Yeah, this is damn it, Neil. Ugh.
No, it really like sung to me. I was like,
and he's so charming. I love the guy. I love listening.
Oh yeah,
to him
yeah.
because he's always just like, you know, I can't do his accent. You know, hi everybody. You know, and he's just he's funny and he's witty. You know,
yeah.
Not that you guys aren't.
Oh,
No, it's okay. It's out there now.
No, I mean Patrick and Brennan. You know.
That's okay. We're two New Englanders that don't really have an accent.
We don't have accents that make us sound smart.
Well, I was gonna say
those accents
we talk
don't
like
make
Ben
you sound
Affleck.
smart. Yeah.
Yeah. We would wear dunce hats if we were back a few decades.
I don't know about
weird dunce hats. Like I don't know what that would look like. Like a dunce hat is just a dunce hat.
Dunce hat. I want to get a dunce hat, man.
Well, but like a weird dunce hat. I'm trying to figure out. Do you mean like a wizard's hat? Would you be like, I'm the wizard?
I don't know. Taff was against this, and now I feel stupid.
I'm a wizard, but I'm a stupid wizard.
You guys think that was a stupid wizard? I like that idea.
The dumb Gandalf.
Can you get a dunce hat on eBay?
Probably.
You can make a dunce hat. You just take a piece of paper and just, you know, make
Can I just earn a dunce hat with that question?
It's entirely possible.
I think that's day 5 talk. Where can I get a dunce hat?
I
just saw the question you asked on day 4.
I just checked. You can get it on eBay. $20 used.
Just I imagine Josh coming up to poor Dean Koontz and, you know, can I get a dunce hat?
Oh God!
Like, oh God.
Mr. Koontz, I'm an ambassador from the horror scene. I feel like we haven't heard from you in a minute, you know?
I brought a dunce hat. Come on back.
We miss you.
Why do you have such a pointy hat on?
I don't think there's a shot in hell of him ever responding to that email I sent out. He's like,
I'm gonna try.
What would be great though is if he says to you, "Are you a wizard?"
Is that the only? Is that it?
Yeah, he's just like, "Your hat. Are you a wizard?"
I'm a stupid wizard.
To which you say yes.
You're like,
you have to say
maybe.
yes.
Yeah. You're just like, yeah, sure.
And he's like,
come this way
man,
quickly. I've got something I need you to do. Or you just show up and he's like, oh, thank God you're here. He brings you in. At a certain point, you're like, Mr. Koontz, and he's like, are you not a wizard? And you're like, no, I'm a wizard. I'm a wizard. I just, you know, what's going on here?
Is there a book being written right now?
No, just throwing it out there again. If we can get a Netflix like Josh and Dean Koontz like Odd Couple type show,
Josh and
we'll
Dean.
watch the hell out of that.
Dean Koontz needs a friend. I'm telling you, it's like the Conan O'Brien show, but different.
The show's called Sad Dean Koontz.
Sad Dean Koontz.
And then we are like, instead of us, we're like, oh, you know, I don't really read him. It's like finally one of us, me, was like, shouldn't one of us reach the fuck out, you know? So I'm not lower me in by rope into his compound, like it was a ladder from a helicopter into his compound. So I'll take care of it, guy.
I'm just thinking of Buffalo Bill, where Josh is Bill and Koontz is the heavier set girl.
Just don't mention his hair.
Why?
Oh, well, I'm not mentioning his hair.
Yeah, you're not supposed to mention it, Patrick.
I'm just imagining we can't afford a helicopter, so it's just going to be a few of us with some kind of jury rig pulley thing trying to lower Josh, and we're oh, hold on, and then we get
In a
distracted.
dunce cap.
Josh, where can people follow you, sir?
Wow.
Steve Koontz' house.
Local park, Dean Koontz' house.
Follow wherever follow me wherever Dean Koontz goes. I'll be following him. And just whatever, Josh Malerman and all the stuff. I think we're the only people with my last name, so it's whatever on Facebook, Instagram. I don't really speak Twitter yet. I've been working on it. Like I don't really speak. But that sense of humor, I don't know. Whatever. That's a whole other. I'd love to have a whole show on like how the fuck do you speak Twitter? But I am on there, but more regularly like Facebook, Instagram, and that. Oh, and my website used to be dull, but now it's not. It has an entire novel that's just sitting there for free that anybody can read.
Carpenter's Farm.
Carpenter's Farm.
Yeah. That's a really cool project.
Thanks.
Taff, I got lost in a minute in so many things we've talked about. Taff, where can people follow you?
Well, I do Twitter exclusively. So I don't do Facebook. I don't do Instagram. So at johnfdtaff.com. I've got a website, but it's being revamped. So it's not up and running right now.
Gotcha. Langan, how can people follow you?
Well, I do Twitter and I do Facebook and Instagram. And I have a WordPress thing. It's called Mr. Gaunt, the webpage for John Langan or something like that. So yeah, any of those places. I don't yet do Snapchat or TikTok, but who knows? It's probably coming.
Yeah,
that's what she said.
Dancing John Langan
Wow.
on TikTok.
Wow.
Langan, you bring it out of me, man. I'm sorry.
I don't want to bring anything.
No.
Yeah,
Come on, man.
you did just walk into that one.
Yeah.
hold on. Well,
I have a wife, man. Back off.
Look, I'm not criticizing your life choices. Okay,
That's right.
Just hey, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's the new horror.
Malerman's got something for us.
I'm just saying, man. I don't like this is a good dunce cap that I found on eBay. It even has like a giant feet on it. And like I knew this. If I ordered this, Allison would be like, "The hell are you doing, dude?" Like I could have made this. And also we didn't have to make this at all, but I could have made this. Oh my god. There's a postcard of a kid wearing a dunce cap. All the other kids are staring at him. Like that was a real thing.
How much do they want for this dunce cap?
Okay, good question. The good one that I found.
The good one.
Just $3.89.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The bargain.
Start the bidding. Start the bidding right now.
And with free shipping, you could have it
I'm
the day
ordering
after
a dunce
tomorrow.
cap.
Josh, if we have you back and you don't show up with a dunce cap, like the disappointment is going to be palpable.
Oh yeah. I'm playing the long game right now.
always leaving them wanting to book you again.
Do you think anyone's ever used a dunce cap for foreplay?
Well,
Yes, I think that answers yes.
that took a turn.
Yes.
Yeah, that's. I'm starting to feel harassed here, Patrick.
It's your beard, man. So
To quote SpongeBob, I'm starting to feel harassed here, Patrick.
SpongeBob, I can't do it. So Langan, do you have any final thoughts? Yeah, I can't do voices.
Do I have any vile thoughts?
Nothing but.
It's
He said but.
Good Lord, you've devolved.
Oh man, I've had that horrible thought looking in the mirror. Oh, good Lord, you've devolved. Like I've woken up and thought that 100 times. To hear you say that felt like it was like my mind out of my mind.
I've run out of whiskey. I feel
no,
it's a bad
Joel,
time to have run out of whiskey.
here's some final thoughts. John and Josh have done an amazing thing, and it's really great. And it's the kind of thing that needs to happen, that needs to keep happening. It gives people a chance to, as we've been saying, to encounter some writers that they probably know, to see them maybe in a slightly different setting than they're used to, in a slightly different way, and also to encounter a bunch of people who may be new to them. And if you buy the book, you should buy the book. It is a fantastic cover. read these stories, and go meet some new writers. There's it's true, right? One of the cool things right now, it's a community, right? People sometimes their noses get bent out of joint and that
Right.
sort of stuff, but by and large, it's really supportive.
Absolutely.
And everybody, we are all pulling for each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's definitely a sense of what Josh was saying, that like I read Ghoul N The Cape, and I'm like, all right, I gotta up my game. I gotta try it.
Right.
And that's not a bad thing.
Right.
It's good to have colleagues who keep you ambitious. Like there's nothing worse than colleagues who you're like, yeah, I can do that. 3 chords, I gotcha.
Right.
But colleagues who keep you on your toes and keep you thinking, oh, let me push ahead. So yeah, there's a sober note to end the podcast on.
Not me. Cheers.
That's gonna blow that sober note right out of the water.
Josh, what are your final thoughts?
Oh my goodness! Cheers, everyone. I think John Langan just said it perfectly, and yeah, truly.
Mr. Taff, what are yours? Mr. Black Taff, Dark Taff.
Yeah, just May 10th rolls around, go out there and get the book, take a look at it, read the stories in the order that I put them, read the stories in whatever order you want to. But I think that you're going to be impressed, and I think you're going to see in some small way that horror is in good hands going forward.
For sure. Brennan.
I mean, I want to thank the 3 of you for spending Friday night with us, but beyond that, I don't think anything I could add. I think it just pale in comparison to Mr. Langan's final words. So
he can't even say my name. He can't even say my name. He blew me off when I was on the last time.
Too many cheers.
Too many languid. Yeah, great. Oh my God.
He languished on that. Listen,
Mr. Language, final words.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo you, Brennan. John Taffy put together a hell of a
what?
book.
Now you can't say my name.
Taffy put
Jesus
together.
Christ, we suck.
Taffy.
Finally,
Taff.
that's the moment I was waiting for. Right there.
The admittance.
Taffy put together.
Langan came on here just to get us both to quit.
Well, it's
No,
works.
you can keep on going as broken example, broken down.
What not to
do.
What were you saying? I think you were complimenting me, weren't you?
I was, Taff. You put together seriously a phenomenal anthology.
Thank you.
Good job. Josh, the first time we had you on, it was, I'm pretty sure, the first time Brennan and I's wives said you guys gotta relax and stop fanboying before you talk to this guy. And Langan, it was a pleasure talking to you. I'm glad that was just us, because really, did we need the other guy there?
Apparently not. I mean, look at, based on the example of this night. I mean, I don't even know. Yeah.
Evolution.
But in all seriousness, I think that this is a great example for people that want to be writers and they don't know where to start. When I started back in 2013, if I had conversations like this to listen to, I had spent 6 years spinning my damn wheels. So, with conversations like this, it would have helped me. I just want to thank all you guys, Brennan, Josh, the Johns, and listeners.
The Johns.
You too.
2 Johns, no waiting.
That's yeah. Yeah.
Next
I want my red M&Ms. Where are my red M&Ms?
They're coming. They're coming.
I know that what's going to happen now is at a convention or something like that. I'm going to get red M&Ms from all kinds.
Every time they see you.
Every time they're going to be like, "Here you go," and I'm going to be like, "All right, I got to eat the red M&Ms."
Oh, it's a thing now.
I totally, yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Yep.
You guys keep saying it's coming. Someone just no. Okay. Next episode 141 is another panel episode focusing on extreme horror with Edward Lee, Ralph James White, Kenzie Jennings, Christine Morgan, and Christopher Trent. So that will be a hell of a conversation. No idea where it's going to lead, but like tonight, it will certainly have laughs and some really serious really cool insights. And as always, listeners, thank you for listening to us. I can't talk. I haven't even been drinking. Thank you for listening to us.
Hold on. I love that. As always, listeners, thanks.
Also,
I think you have a
listeners,
contact, Ty.
Yeah, that sounded like a Sesame Street thing, man. I was like, listeners, thanks for listening.
And also, listeners, he's drunk as a skunk. I mean, it's an embarrassment. I mean,
Before you sign out, Patrick, please
It's
give
a
us the
problem.
letter of the
Please
day.
don't edit that out. That was so good. Or if you do edit it out, send me the cutting room floor a little bit.
I'm gonna keep it because that was funny.
Okay.
That's funny, man. The letter of the day is fuck. Thank you for listening to this fucking episode. Good night.
Night, everyone.
Good night.
night, everybody.